What if I told you the most important clue in the Madeleine McCann case has been hiding in plain sight? For 18 years, we've been looking in all the wrong places. But there's something investigators missed. Something that could change everything. Two specially trained dogs might hold the key to solving this mystery, and what they found will send chills down your spine. This isn't just another theory. This is real evidence. Evidence that suggests someone worked very hard to cover their tracks. But did they succeed? Or did they leave behind traces that only these dogs could detect? As a parent myself, this was one of the hardest pieces of case I've ever had to research. Please subscribe. It encourages me to keep bringing you more details about this bright girl. We're committed to bringing you the truth, even when it's heartbreaking. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about that night in Portugal.
The crime scene dog was actually giving me what we call a passive indication, where she freezes in this spot here.
Which we have is a reaction from the dog over here, where his head's up in the air, and he's scenting the items that he's trained to find. And when we tie him down,
Jerry McCann have both been today declared acquittal with no bail conditions, and no charges have been brought against them. The investigation continues.
Let me take you back to May 3rd, 2007. A small resort town in Portugal. Praia da Luz. A 3-year-old girl disappears from her family's vacation apartment. Her name? Madeleine McCann. 18 years later, we still don't know what happened to her. But we do have a prime suspect now. A man named Christian Bruckner. He's currently in prison for other crimes. But investigators believe he might know something about Madeleine. Here's what's been frustrating about this case. So many dead ends. So many searches that led nowhere. So many witnesses who saw nothing helpful. The evidence seemed to vanish just like Madeleine did. But what if it didn't vanish? What if it was always there? What if we just needed the right kind of detective to find it? For years, investigators focused on one main theory. Someone broke into apartment 5A. They took Madeleine while her parents dined nearby. This wasn't a random crime. This person came prepared. They brought lock-picking tools. They knew exactly what they were doing. They studied the family's routine. They waited for the perfect moment. But here's where it gets interesting. How do you make a 3-year-old disappear without a trace? How do you carry a sleeping child through a busy resort without being seen? How do you avoid leaving behind any DNA evidence? The answer is simple. You don't. You can try to clean up. You can try to hide the evidence. But you can't fool everyone. Especially if that someone has 4 legs and a nose 1,000 times better than yours. This is where our story takes a turn. Because investigators did bring in some special help. 2 dogs trained to detect things human investigators might miss. Their names were Eddie and Keela. And what they found changes everything. Let me introduce you to 2 of the most important witnesses in this case. Eddie is a cadaver dog. He's trained to detect the scent of human remains. Keela is a blood detection dog. She can smell blood even after someone tries to clean it up. Both dogs were brought to Portugal months after Madeleine disappeared. And both dogs alerted on the same locations. First, they searched apartment 5A, the exact room where Madeleine was sleeping. Eddie alerted behind the sofa in the living room. Keela alerted in the same spot. But that's not all. Remember Madeleine's favorite stuffed animal? A pink toy called Cuddle Cat? Eddie alerted on that toy too. The same toy Madeleine's mother carried everywhere after the disappearance. Then something even more interesting happened. The family had rented a car 3 weeks after Madeleine vanished. Both dogs alerted on that car, inside the trunk area. Think about that for a moment. What could make both dogs alert on the same locations? But wait, there's more recent evidence you probably haven't heard about. In June 2023, investigators brought dogs back to Portugal. This time, they searched a forest area in the Algarve region. And once again, the dogs alerted. They picked up Madeleine's scent in those woods. 18 years later, and the dogs can still detect something. Now let's think like the person who took Madeleine. You just committed a serious crime. You need to disappear fast. But you also need to make sure you don't leave evidence behind. So you brought cleaning supplies. Maybe chemicals to mask scents. You moved furniture around. You wiped down surfaces. You thought you were being smart. You thought you covered everything. But here's what you didn't know about those specially trained dogs. They can detect scents that are weeks old, even months old. Cleaning products don't fool them. Neither does moving furniture. And if you use that rental car to transport anything, they'll know. The person who took Madeleine made one critical mistake. They underestimated the power of a dog's nose. They cleaned up what humans could see, but they couldn't clean up what dogs could smell. This is why the investigation stalled for so long. Human investigators were looking for evidence they could see with their eyes. But the real evidence could only be detected by these specially trained animals. So why should we trust what these dogs are telling us? Let me explain how cadaver and blood detection dogs work. These aren't regular pets. They undergo years of specialized training. They practice with real human remains and blood samples. Their accuracy rate is over 90% when properly handled. But here's what makes this evidence even stronger. Multiple dogs alerted on the same locations at different times. The chances of false positives in multiple locations are extremely low. And remember that forest search in 2023? That's 18 years after the disappearance. If dogs can still pick up Madeleine's scent after all this time, what does that tell us? It tells us something significant happened in those locations. Something the person responsible thought they had hidden forever. But they were wrong. The evidence is still there. As a parent myself, this was one of the hardest pieces of case I've ever had to research. Please subscribe. It encourages me to keep bringing you more details about this bright girl. We're committed to bringing you the truth, even when it's heartbreaking. Modern forensic techniques combined with dog alerts could unlock this case. Ground-penetrating radar, advanced DNA testing, chemical analysis of soil samples. All of these tools could help investigators follow up on what the dogs have found. The question isn't whether the dogs detected something real.
Spotted him, so between those two. He was wearing quite a lot of clothes, and that's one thing in hindsight again I think is quite odd, because tourists when they're abroad, Brits abroad, would always have crop trousers or shorts or something, and he had sort of a big heavy jacket and trousers on.
Clearly, however, given the intergovernmental sensitivities surrounding Kate and Jerry's case, my position as an impartial civil servant working for the British government became untenable from the moment I accepted their proposal.
The question is whether investigators will act on what the dogs are telling them. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Dog evidence isn't proof in a courtroom. And you're right. Dogs can make mistakes. They can be influenced by their handlers. Environmental factors can affect their accuracy too. But let's look at this case specifically. We have multiple dogs alerting on multiple locations over many years. We have alerts that match up with the timeline of the disappearance. We have alerts and locations connected to the family and the investigation. This isn't just one dog having an off day. This is a pattern that investigators have largely ignored. Yes, 18 years have passed. Yes, evidence degrades over time. But cadaver scent can persist much longer than most people realize, especially in protected environments like indoor spaces or wooded areas. The dogs aren't just randomly alerting on these locations. They're telling us a story about what really happened that night. The question is whether we're ready to listen. So what happens next in the Madeleine McCann case? Investigators are still actively pursuing leads connected to Christian Bruckner, but they should also be following up on what the dogs have told us. Those forest locations where dogs alerted in 2023, they need to be excavated. That apartment where both dogs alerted, it needs advanced forensic testing. The rental car alerts, they need to examine every fiber in that vehicle. Here's what I believe happened based on all the evidence. Someone took Madeleine from that apartment on May 3, 2007. They thought they cleaned up perfectly, but they didn't. They left traces that only specially trained dogs could detect. Those traces are still there, waiting to be properly investigated. The person responsible has stayed free for 18 years, but the dogs haven't forgotten. they're still finding evidence. Evidence that could finally bring justice for Madeleine McCann. If you found this information as shocking as I did, share this video. The more people who know about this evidence, the more pressure on investigators to act. Leave a comment below. What do you think the dogs are really telling us? And make sure to subscribe, because I'll be following every development in this case. Madeleine McCann deserves justice, and these dogs might be the key to finding it. The truth has been hiding in plain sight for 18 years, but it won't stay hidden forever. Not if we keep asking the right questions. Not if we keep demanding answers. The dogs have spoken. Now it's time for the world to listen.
At this point over here, where the victim recovery dog was indicated, as you saw on the video, the crime scene dog was actually giving me what we call a passive indication, where she freezes in this spot.
Possible that that window was opened from the inside by a burglar, so that it could get out that way if somebody came in through the other door. To make an exit route for yourself, to open the back door as well, so if somebody comes in the front door, you can just simply run out.
5'8" tall. He was taller than me, but not 6 foot, and so between those two. He was wearing quite a lot of clothes, and that's one thing in hindsight again I think was quite odd, because tourists, when they're abroad, Brits abroad, would always have crop trousers or shorts or something, and he had sort of a big heavy jacket and trousers on.
At this point over here, where the victim recovery dog was indicated, as you saw on the video, the crime scene dog was actually giving me what we call a passive indication, where she freezes in this spot here, which would indicate to me that there is some human blood there.
Can have both been today declared arguido with no bail conditions, and no charges have been brought against them. The investigation continues.